It's so huge to be able to communicate in this way. I mean, this is one of the great superpowers we have that LOA teaches us is how to just do it more clearly. And the way to do it more clearly is just be honest with yourself and set high standards for yourself and for other people, in the sense where you follow the golden rule and you want to be treated well and you expect to treat other people well. It's a very high standard then, and people respond to that. That is the secret sauce. So instead of swimming in the crap, we're kind of floating above it in a way when we communicate that way. I've said this before in the group. One of the more beneficial things LOA has helped me with is reactivity. And to give a very concrete example is, my wife and I have been together for like 15 years, married for 11. And before I really integrated these principles, I was much more prone to, if I felt upset about something, to bring it up and try to talk it out right away or within a few hours of something of being triggered, and not sleep on it. Not to say that I wouldn't try to sleep on it. It just was much harder for me to sleep on it. I felt bothered. I felt like I had to express myself in this kind of reactive way. One of the, I would say, great tools that LOA has taught me and skills is being able to sleep on stuff. And like I said before we started recording, Agent N, being able to sleep on stuff has literally probably saved me 75 to 90% of arguments that I used to have, I just don't have with my partner anymore, because I've learned to sleep on stuff and hold it in and speak about it in a more measured tone. And then when we do have a serious argument, my wife knows it's serious too, because I haven't just reacted blindly. And if I do get triggered and react, I'm able to pull it in really quickly and apologize and be like, oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I overcompensate in my apology because I know it's just not worth it to stew that pot. And again, I consider this like, this is huge. These are like huge skills. And like there's a lot of people say, well, that has nothing to do with manifesting. That has everything to fucking do with manifesting when it comes to relationships. I'm sorry. It does, And something else I want to add is I was reading Joel Goldsmith, my guy, the other day, and I forget what Bible quote this was. I was just Googling it. I couldn't find it. But he talks about one of the virtues, this is in the Bible somewhere, is being long-suffering, like having patience, long-suffering. And I was like, that's so interesting, because we usually see that as like a bad thing. But being patient, like long-suffering in that way, and again, there's interpretations from the original language, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. But if you think about being long-suffering as a good quality in some aspects, again, you don't want to be a doormat, but with power comes great responsibility. With knowledge comes great responsibility. You become very good with people if you start applying this stuff. And exactly like you're doing, Agent N, like you get more comfortable talking to friends and people it's a gradual thing. Think about it this way. If you get 1% better at communicating in the way we're talking about, if you get 1% better each week, by the end of a year, you're over 50% better. After 2 years, you're 100% better from where you started. That's a huge change, but it's not overnight. It's more like the slight edge philosophy. Jeff Olson's got this great book called The Slight Edge, talking about slow incremental 1% improvements over the course of a week or a month or what have you, leading to a massive change over a relatively short period of time, a year or two. So this is LOA. It's not the sexy, fancy, oh, I got my SP back overnight. Because you get your SP back overnight, you got to deal with them the next night after that, and the next night after that, and forever more if you're doing it right. So we got to clean our shit up.
And you got to deal with your shit, not just dealing with your SP once they come back, but you got to deal with your shit. Which that's really the reason why people leave in the first place, is because you're not dealing with your shit. And that's why you keep attracting the same types of relationships, same types of people, again, because you're not dealing with your shit. Because that's what everyone is you pushed out is all about. You got to deal with your shit. Like the outer world is like they always say, the outer world is going to reflect your inner world. You know what I mean? And this, I think people take that. I think people take that more literal than they should maybe take it in a way at times. But my for instance, when I say when I hear everyone is you pushed out, what I mean a lot of times is it's your perspective on things, right? So if you, for instance, if you grow up with a victim mentality in a sense, right? You just think everybody's after you, everything like you just think something or someone is always attacking you. And you walk by somebody on the street and they're looking at you in a certain way, you're going to automatically start to think, oh, why are they looking at me? They're looking at me because they don't like me. And that might not even be on that person's mind. They could just literally just be looking at you, just to look at you. But in your mind, because you have such a certain mentality, you're thinking, oh man, because you've grown up with that victim mentality, like, oh man, these people are after me, they're trying to get me. And then that carries over to your work environment. Every job you have, you think your supervisor hates you, you think your coworkers hate you, because you have this. To me, that's what everyone is you pushed out. Is when you throw your insecurities and fears onto them and you try to think for them and you think they're thinking something about you that they're not even thinking. You know, that's what everyone is you push out to me is, in my opinion, a lot of times. It's not necessarily that, yeah, you will attract that in a sense, but it's kind of like you're making that you're making that story up and not necessarily attracting it, if that makes sense. I might sound crazy right now, but it's like you're making that story up in your head because it fits the description. It feels good. It feels natural. But you're not even necessarily attracting it. You're creating a story that's not true. Because like I said, the guy on the street, he might not have a problem with you. You might look at him and think, oh, he's getting ready to rob me, just because he looks at you. And he's not getting ready to rob you, but you've created that scenario in your head. You know what I mean?
That's a great explanation of everyone as you pushed out.
But people think that that means you're gonna just keep, in a way, like attracting that type of stuff. And it can mean that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it can't mean that, because it definitely can. But to me, it's the first way that I explained it a lot of times more than people are actually attracting. Like, I don't know. Like, my mind is just racing right now because it's like I realize that's, to me, like that's what everyone is you pushed out is. Like, we create these scenarios in our heads about people that are not even true. But because because our inner world is so fucked up, like we choose to look at somebody in our outer world the way that our inner world feels. And that's really what the problem is. It's not that the outer world is really fucked up in a sense. It's that we're creating the outer world to be fucked up. Like, some people's SPs might not even be as bad as we thought they were. But because our inner world was so bad, we made them out to be worse than they actually were. And so, yeah.
Yep. And likewise, we can turn it on its head. And if we cultivate that more peaceful, loving, golden rule type of attitude, that's pushed out.
Mm.